High school football season is here, and Sports on Tap has you covered all season long with in-depth coverage and analysis. You won't want to miss our special football shows each Monday of the high school season from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Catch recaps of all the games, interviews with local players and coaches, and hear if your team is playing in the game of the week. For the best high school football coverage, turn to Sports on Tap. Every Monday from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network.
And welcome to Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. I'm Rob Troutman. We have Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy here. This is our Ohio high school football coverage live on Mixlr.
Yes, sir.
And want to welcome everybody in. Week 2 in the books. And
interesting week 2, to say the least.
I think every week is interesting.
No doubt.
But some exciting games. Our spotlight games we'll go over and recap Week 2 games in the Southwestern Conference, Greater Cleveland Conference, the Suburban League, also the Buckeye Bucks. We'll look ahead to Week 3, give our game of the week. We'll go over our recap in the game of the week, which was Hudson at Strongsville. Mm-hmm. And that was a fun game.
Yeah, it was interesting. Definitely an interesting game, as goes the theme of Week 2 in high school football. Ooh.
And also, it was before the game, we went to the Team Strongsville tailgate, which was a blast. Colette Fine part of that. So she did a great job seeing all the different businesses there, getting out into the community.
Getting to meet some people, too. We met a lot of good people out there. It was definitely a fun and really well put on event by Colette and the rest of Team Strongsville.
A lot for kids to do there. They had a bounce house and different activities. That was a fun day. But, some surprising games, in my Southwestern Conference that, some were shootouts. Others, there were some defensive gems by teams out there. And I think we saw some in the Greater Cleveland and Suburban League as well. But first, let's go over to Josh Jeffy. He's going to go over the recap from Week 2 in the Greater Cleveland Conference.
Well, this week in the Greater Cleveland Conference, you had games on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So a good mix of Greater Cleveland Conference games. Easy for me to say. We're going to start first on Thursday as Shaker Heights improved to 2-0 with a 45-0 victory over John Adams. John Adams is 0-2 on the year. Shaker quarterback Jameer Demukes had 2 TD passes, one to McCall Hills and another one to William Greer. Hills also had a punt return for a touchdown, and I had to double-check this stat. The Shaker defense held John Adams' offense to minus 80 yards of offense. Yeah, that's right. John Adams did not have positive yardage at all during the game. So, again, Shaker Heights continuing the trend of non-conference domination, basically. Last year they started 3-0. The season 3-0 in the non-conference. And, again, they're starting off this year 2-0. And next week, however, they travel to Bedford. That should be an interesting game. This was kind of a surprise. I wanted to see how Euclid would come out after a good victory in Week 1 against Glenville. They did not come out very well, though. They lost 41-13 to Aurora. Euclid drops to 1-1 on the season. Euclid's performance offensively was by Daquan Pruitt. He had 118 yards on 23 carries and 2 touchdowns. Euclid, the defense gave up 3 touchdowns and 107 rushing yards to Aurora running back Chris Vanzo. Euclid will look to rebound as they will host Willoughby South next week, or this coming week, excuse me. Brunswick traveled to Austintown Fitch. Brunswick coming in at 1-0. They lost 27-20. This was, for Brunswick, a penalty-laden game, flagged 10 times for a total of 85 yards. Offense was led by Jake Martin, 20 carries, 149 yards. Ethan Flanagan, Colin Stursik, and Alex Gillespie, all with TDs for the Blue Devils. Again, they fall 27-20 to Austintown. Brunswick again is 1-1 on the season. They will finish out their non-conference schedule at Brecksville Broadview Heights. Man, it's a little tongue-tied today.
Easy for you to say.
I'm still on the holiday weekend.
Good Lord.
Next game in the GCC saw the Solon Comets improved to 2-0 with a 43-7 victory over Twinsburg. Thomas Wilkes had 3 rushing touchdowns for the Comets. Devon Brown had 1 rushing touchdown, and quarterback Joe Bubonics, one of the best names in the conference, had a passing TV for the Comets. This game was pretty much all Solon from start to finish. Not much you could say else about this game.
Would you say that Bubonics was a plague on whoever they played? Oh!
I would say that
That's a medieval reference right there.
But you know what, Sean? I would say that was pretty good, but I've already seen it.
Oh, come on.
Oh. Bam.
But hey, that's how we keep it real here on SOT.
Just saying. It's just fun to say.
Next game on the docket here in the GCC is the offensive juggernaut known as the Medina Bees with a 70-14 victory over Kenston. The Bees now improved to 2-0. The first 2 games, they've outscored their opponents 125-14. Quarterback John Curtis, 258 yards, 3 touchdowns, 53 yards rushing, 2 TDs. However, they gave it to the workhorse, the man known as Jimmy Daw, 12 carries, 199 yards, 5 touchdowns. It's 10 touchdowns in 2 games that he has. Needless to say, I'm going to say right now, if a team scores 70 points and you've had back-to-back 5-touchdown games, he's my MVP this week. So I'm going to give that MVP to Jimmy Daw. Spoiler alert right now.
Oh, wow.
So, again, Medina.
Cool trigger.
Gets the job done. Medina advances to 2-0 on the season. They will travel to Wadsworth this coming week up in their final non-conference game. And a bit of a surprise game. The St. Ignatius Wildcats defeated Menor. The Menor Cardinals 49-7. Menor drops to 1-1 on the year. St. Ignatius avenged last year's 63-56 loss to Menor in what was a classic game. Now this game, you got to give it up to Ignatius defense. They held Menor to 146 total yards of offense. The only offense that Menor did have was a 47-yard touchdown pass from Tadas Tatarunas. Other than that, that's it.
And when was that? Was that in the first quarter? Or?
That was late in the game, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was not a good game for Menor. Again, they dropped to 1-1, and they will host Cincinnati St. Xavier,
Jesus.
who is actually 0-2 on the season. So this is kind of going to be like kind of a bounce-back game to say for both teams. St. Xavier is trying to get off the schneid. A little spoiler alert, this is going to be my spotlight game of the week in the GCC. The reason why I'm making my spotlight game is because I want to see how these teams rebound. Men are coming off a loss. St. Xavier, a notoriously stout team down in, Division 4?
No,
St.
they're
Xavier's
D1, but
Region
they're in
4.
Cincinnati, yeah.
Region 4, excuse me on that one. One of the big teams down in the Cincinnati area. So I want to see how that game will play out. Now, my spotlight game for week 2 was Elyria and Lorraine, and I thought this was a good game, and it was a good game for Elyria. They improved to 1-1 on the season with a 32-18 victory over Lorraine. Lorraine drops to 0-2. Dante Beckett for Elyria, the quarterback, had 160 yards rushing, 82 yards passing with 1 touchdown. Now, Elyria was without their all-conference running back, Chris Atkinson. While he did not play due to an ankle injury. However, they did have Tyree Stevens, 106 yards on 11 carries. The man is 5'4", 165 pounds.
Wow.
Good, big things come in small packages, they say. 5'4", 165 pounds, so he's like a mini Jerome Bettis. running there, and he had a good game. Now, our SOT game of the week pitted GCC team. We'll talk about that a little later. Strongsville and Hudson. Hudson with the victory there. Again, we'll get into more of that as the show continues on. But some games that looking forward to. I had mentioned some of the games that will be played. Menor, again, will host St. Xavier. This is a big game. I know it's Ed's spotlight game, possibly. No spoilers there, but we'll see. Solon and Stowe Monroe Falls. Lyria will travel to Shaw. Strongsville will host Brush. Euclid at Willoughby South. Brunswick at Brecksville Broadview Heights. Medina at Wadsworth. And then Shaker Heights will travel to Bedford. So a very interesting week in the GCC. Shaker improves to 2-0. Menor drops to 1-1. Strongsville not off the schneid yet. They are 0-2. So if you look right now, Medina surprising. I mean, I think we can all say that the Medina offense has been really a bit of a surprise. I know they had some players on offense, but I didn't see the kind of explosion that they've had. 55-0 against Lakewood in their first game, 70-14 this game against a pretty decent Kenston team. So we'll have to wait and see what Medina does in their next game. I mean, they travel to Wadsworth in kind of an inter-county, somewhat of a rival game there. We got to see if they can continue with their offensive success.
Yeah, one thing that I found was, given Lakewood's struggles over the past couple of years, that score week 1 didn't shock me too much. But then for them to follow it up with scoring even more points the following week, I mean, we were at the game at Strongsville, and Josh read us the score, and all three of us mouths were wide open, like they dropped 70 on Kenston. But yeah, it was definitely impressive. They got really good momentum going into it. You'd like them to maybe take on a Wadsworth team, hopefully get 3-0 before they go into league play, because then anything can happen in league play.
Yeah, we saw last year Shaker started 3-0, and they're well on the way to going 3-0 again. Yep. Well, they could be possibly.
Yeah, they're gonna have a rough go of it.
Yeah, but I mean that's the true test. I mean, you don't know until you get into that conference schedule, or if you have a tough non-conference to see where you actually stack up. And we know, and we've heard from the coaches that we've interviewed in the GCC that this conference is going to be very tough. You can't take any games off because at any given day you can be beat.
Yeah, and Strongsville playing two tough teams in Avon and Hudson, both always playoff teams between them. But looking at Medina, like you said, their offense is really clicking now. Moving forward, I think teams are going to start to really key on Jimmy Dawes. So I'm interested to see how Medina, if they're obviously going to have to keep pounding the ball and figuring out different ways to get probably other players into the mix, which I'm sure they have if they've put up 70 points and what was it, 56?
70 and 55.
55. So, they'd put up some points, but obviously teams are going to start keying in on the running game and seeing what they can do with the passing. And as for Menor, Ignatius is a good team. And St. Xavier, I'm interested to see who they played so far this year because, a lot of times they play teams that are out of state and ranked in the country. So, them being 0-2 really – could mean not too much unless they're Ohio schools.
Their losses are to St. John Bosco, a nationally ranked school out in California, and Cincinnati Colerain, just right in their backyard. And
Colerain's a legendarily great
both
team
teams are 2-0. So
okay.
And they did lose to Colerain in overtime, 20-14.
Yeah,
so
there's no shame in shame in that loss there.
So this is kind of records to be tossed out. This is a good game between two. Historically good team, so I'm predicting a pretty good game.
Yeah, and Menor, I'm sure will bounce back. And along, like we said, Shakers start off the same way. How are they going to continue? Obviously they went 3-0 to start the season last year. As they go on in the GCC, how are they going to perform? I think that's what we all want to see is if they can keep going strong in the GCC where they seem to struggle a little bit.
They're going to have a battle on their hands against Bedford. I'll talk about Bedford here in a little bit as part of one of my games in the Suburban League National Division. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Brunswick and Brecksville
That's
Broadview
going to
Heights.
be a good one.
We'll just need to see if Brunswick can keep the penalties down because that was just embarrassing to see the other day.
Yeah, we exchanged text that evening, and Ed the coach came out of him, didn't seem to be too thrilled with the team performance. Hopefully they will bounce back in week 3.
All right, Josh Jeffy with the Greater Cleveland Conference. When we come back, actually, not come up.
We're creeping on the come up, though,
The
Rob.
Southwestern Conference. I'll go over the Week 2 recap in the Southwestern Conference. Coming up, we're Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. This is our Ohio High School football coverage.